Hi guys, so this video is going to be about the latest Codex Action released by OpenAI, and we'll be looking deeper into it and also some of the functionalities in which you provide, and also we'll be seeing how to extend it for it to support most OpenAI compatible endpoints, right? Because right now the latest release on their branch does not support um, any OpenAI compatible endpoint. So we extended it to support any OpenAI compatible endpoint from DeepSeek or any other AI model provider. So we'll be going through the implementation and also how you can use it exactly for your own automatic PR reviews. So here we have the fork version, which we have implemented the support for OpenAI compatible endpoints, and you can see here that we just added some specific functionalities. But before we go through the functionalities, let's first of all understand what are OpenAI compatible endpoints. So imagine you have a standard RAG application or an LLM application that uses the default OpenAI SDK that's directly from OpenAI, and it uses some specific OpenAI models like GPT-4 or GPT-5, and you want the possibility to be able to test or try out other models from different providers. So the possibility for OpenAI compatible endpoints that it gives you is that you can have some form of a base URL. For example, you can see in the example here, you have some form of a base URL where the request is being routed to, and you have an API key for authentication. So this is important in a kind of development environment where you want to test out or try out different LLM or different models without the cost of changing massive code in your existing code base, right? That's the importance of this. And you can also play around with different models without needing to massively change some large portion in your code base. So this is the main use of OpenAI compatible endpoints. And the good thing is that most model providers already support these endpoints. For example, the Google Gemini already have an endpoint which is OpenAI compatible, and Grok also has this endpoint which is OpenAI compatible. So if I go to the official Grok documentation, the Grok with the Q specifically, you can see in their documentation here they have a client, a way to use the base URL and the API key, right? So you can see they're calling passing the base URL and the API key. So it's essentially this is the standard way to use OpenAI compatible endpoints, and you can see the endpoint that they provided here. So with this endpoint now, you can easily switch between different models without needing to change massive portion in your code base, right? And you can see here same thing with Light LLM. Light LLM is just a proxy for different models, and they also support the OpenAI compatible endpoint. And you can see here specifically how they are still using the same method, using the API key and the base URL. And yeah, you can literally configure it in your own server or your own environment to be able to route different requests to different LLMs that you want to use in your application. So this is important because you can easily switch between different models directly without needing to change massive portion in your code base. So OpenAI released the Codex Action, and by default it does not support OpenAI compatible endpoints. So what we did was that we extended the version in which they release in such a way that we can do some form of a plug and play to different LLM providers and try to test or do PR reviews with their own models that they provide. So right now we are going to go through Vercel. You can see Vercel also has an OpenAI compatible endpoint. You can see the format here, and this format literally adjusts from the OpenAI specification. You can see the specification here. The specification has different endpoints that can be used. You can see from the YAML file, you can see here you have different endpoints for chat, completion, conversation, and also embedding. So these are different endpoints that can be used in. If your application has to do with any of these endpoints, then you need to make sure that the custom URL or the custom provider supports this endpoint, right? So that you'll be able to use it directly in your application. So we are going to go through now the modifications that we did. So in terms of the modifications, they are not much. normally the implementation from OpenAI, what it does is that when you try to send a request like from an action, from a GitHub action, it creates some form of a proxy and now sends a request to the OpenAI default endpoint. So what we did was that we added a custom base URL. You can see here we have a custom base URL, and this custom base URL now is the URL from your provider, and it's going to be able to route this request to the server of your provider if it supports that, if it has an endpoint which is OpenAI compatible. So that is what we are doing here, and you can see we are using the standard chat for posting the response from the LLM to the comment directly, and this is the main file where we configure the custom endpoint, and we created this test PR action which has some custom prompts that the model can use to review the pull request, right? So this is just a custom prompt that the model can use to review the pull request, and it passes some metadata and some other stuff which the model can use and configure the API key and the custom base URL. So the repository is available on GitHub, and you can see here you have Codex Action. That's the main Codex Action, and this is a fork version of the Codex Action. And this is where we implemented the Codex Action API compatible for OpenAI compatible endpoints. It's also available on the GitHub Marketplace, and you can see it here on the GitHub Marketplace, and also how to configure it for your own custom pull request. And you can see how to configure it, how to add prompts, and also tell the model to use specific tools if the model supports specific tools, right? You can also check it out here. So I carried out some tests. I'll just show you the test. You can see here in the action, this was a feature that I was implementing which was related to posting the output comments from the model, right? So I implemented this, and you can see that the action started. Check out the main branch of the repository, and started the underlying model we're using is Kimike2. It started going through the different files or the different folders in the repository and review the pull request. And after reviewing the pull request, it left some comments. So let me go to the main pull request. So here you can see specifically the feature where we're working on, and you can see after when the action was done, it added this comment here after reviewing the changes modified in the pull request. So literally the changes modified were not something was not a complicated change. It was just to add the output file for the response from the model itself, and also specify how the path of the file should look like. So you can see the model added this comment here, which was just a review that it did on these existing changes which were done. And he added this comment here to give some form of a code review, right? So this is important in a scenario where you have you're working individually in a single project and you want faster development time without needing a team member to do an automatic review. So you can just configure a specific provider and have the model review pull request directly without needing to change any major thing in your code base. So by default, you can use the Codex Action with the OpenAI default models if you want to pay for their subscription, or if you have your own infrastructure and you have some other paid services where you want to try them out for automatic pull request review, then you can use the Codex Action here which is OpenAI compatible to configure the underlying model that you want to configure and have it review your pull request automatically. So that is all for this video. I hope you find value in it. You can try it out, test it out in your own workflow, and if it's interesting, then you can create a pull request and maybe enhance some features, or some features where you have some difficulty and all of that. So yeah, see you in the next one.